let's start with Jody. Jody.
Hello, good morning or good evening. I'm Jordi Melina. I'm a 35 years experienced developer. I have been in the Ethereum community since 2015. I've been involved in many projects and defining many standards on top of Ethereum. I'm the creator of the Circom Snarks language and the Snark.js. And right now I'm the technical lead of Ident3 and Hermez Network, which is a payments roll-up layer 2 solution on top of Ethereum.
Thanks, Jody. Next one, Ellie, can you introduce yourself a little bit to our audience?
Hi, Ellie Ben-Sasson. I'm a co-founder and president at Starkware. I've been researching cryptography and mathematics, theoretical computer science since roughly 2000, a little bit before that. And this research has led me to be part of the founding team of Zcash and later on Starkware. Both of them are based on research to which I contributed. And Starkware is offering scalability solutions using ZK Starks, both for specific customers. We have a few live already, and we're going to launch Starknet, which is an Ethereum-like L2 that will have much better scale.
Thank you, Ellie. Alex, can you give a brief introduction about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Molly. Happy to be here. I am CEO and co-founder of Meta Labs and one of the co-creators of ZK Sync, which is a ZK rollup for Ethereum. And we've been working since for 2 years now to bring generic programmability to ZK rollups. And specifically, we're very excited about bringing EVM compatible ZK rollup to Ethereum this summer.
Thank you, Alex. Next one, Dongming. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to us?
Sure. Hi, this is Mo from Celer. So I'm a co-founder and the CEO of Celer Network. And what we have been working on in the past couple of years is really a layer 2 platform that is providing cross-stack solutions, including state channel and optimistic rollup, but not only on the foundational kind of technology layer, but also we very much focus on bringing mass adoptions in masses of users to the blockchain space. And along that line, we have launched 2 notable platforms. That is CelerX, which is a esport gaming platform that has attracted more than 1 million users right now in the US, and using state channel technology underlying to processing payment. And we process about $20 million to $30 million of a payment per month right now on this platform. And most recently, we also launched Layer 2 Finance, which is a DeFi Layer 2 aggregator that allows users to deposit into Layer 2 and really be able to use all this Layer 1 existing DeFi protocols without moving into different chains and at a much lower cost. Right now, it's launched on Melina, so you can all try it out and use DeFi for free. Yeah, that's what we do.
Thank you, Dongming. And next one, Yanyo, would you like to introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. Thanks, Molly. First of all, I apologize that the camera is off. Unfortunately, I had a small accident basically, and I am wearing a collar around my neck, so I kind of look like an android now. So basically, I think it's better not to freak people out. But yeah, and the panel was scheduled before this happened, so I didn't want to cancel, but I think it's better to keep it with camera off. Anyways, my name is Mihailo. Happy to be here. I'm an IT engineer. I worked on several startups in my past life. Since 2013, involved with crypto, since 2017 full-time. Primarily interested in Ethereum scaling, bringing mass adoption to Ethereum. And currently I'm a co-founder of Polygon. Polygon is a modular framework, modular platform for Ethereum scaling and infrastructure development. We aim to basically scale Ethereum and bring, as I said, mass adoption to Ethereum primarily by offering multiple scaling solutions and infrastructures. Currently, we offer two, which are plasma chain and our POS chain, which is some sort of improved side chain. And the later is seeing great level of adoption recently, especially from DeFi applications, NFTs, etc. And in the future, we aim to offer more of the major scalability solutions for Ethereum.
Thank you. Next one, the last one, Yang, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. I'm Yang, partner and co-founder of Starkware Capital. We've been pretty actively doing the investment in this space since 2017, and we were pretty lucky enough to involve in Polygon and Celer in the early days. Nice to see you guys here. It's a great honor to discuss a layer 2 technology here with all you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Now we know a little bit about each of our panelists. Let's start with the serious talk. The first question, there's been an increasing amount of discussions about layer 2 over the past year, and we've seen a lot of different types of layer 2 solution, which including ZK rollup, optimistic rollup, sidechains, plasma. So what's the main difference between them? And which of those layer 2 solution you think is the most promising one? Jody, do you want to?
Yeah, the main difference between two is what we call the validation proof. It's so in the optimistic rollups, the idea is that you can you can validate different blocks, so you can process transactions, and it's an operator that just says the new state, and the people just have to trust it. And in order for this to be reliable, there is like a gaming in there. So somebody can challenge, and if they don't do okay, then somebody gets a penalty. And with this game theory, they can evolve. So they can work on that way. In the other side, the ZK rollups, they have this cryptographic primitive that at the end allows to validate the full proof. So just giving a proof that the full block is valid. So there is no challenge there. There is no gaming there. You just put this proof. You just said what's the newest state. You put this proof, and then this proof is valid. So you can trust. The transfer is done. You don't have to write anything. It's already there. And this is the big difference. But at the end is this. Like this layer 2, it's like a new chain that you are evolving on, and you are just using the consensus mechanism of the layer 1.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Ellie, would you like to also share your thought with us?
Yeah, and the different some time ago I'll maybe send to you later this infographic that we did about they're like it's a 2x2 table, so I'll just describe it. One is whether you use fraud proofs or validity proofs. Fraud proofs are optimistic rollups where there is a chance of moving the state of the system to an invalid state, and then you rely on crypto economic incentives to get other players or watchtowers to see this and call out, and then there's some phase during which this is sorted out. So this is the fraud-proof based approach. There's another approach that is the validity-based approach, in which no operator can ever move the system to an invalid state. And the reason is that every change in the state must be accompanied by a proof, and you cannot forge proofs. That's what the cryptography assures you. So, and then you don't need to rely on those crypto economic incentives. So that's fraud proofs versus validity proofs. And then there's another breaking up of the space into whether you have your data, all of the data on chain, in which case it is called a rollup, or whether you allow it to reside off chain and rely on other solutions, in which case it goes by several names, like Validium in the case of ZK rollups and, well, it's not a rollup, but Validium in the case of validity proofs and Plasma in the case of fraud proofs. So that's roughly how the space works. And then there's a trade-off, right? If you put all the data on chain, you have full L1 security, but it also costs more. Once you take some of the data off chain, you get better scalability and lower costs. But now you have to deal with the security issues of not having everything there. So it's really this trade-off. Yeah, I hope this answers the question.
Thank you, Ali. Alex, would you also like to share your thought on it?
Sure. So I think the interesting thing about the validity proofs is that it's kind of like a very deep philosophical difference. So with blockchains in general, we have this maxima inherited from Bitcoin: don't trust, verify. So the whole point of blockchains is that you don't introduce new trust assumptions, but instead we start with the premise that everyone in the network is equal, and there is no single point of failure. And to achieve that, everyone has to contribute to verification of network. So you don't trust, you actually go and do a mathematical verification of the transactions, of the rules, enforcement of the rules of the protocol. And layer ones do it by like brute force verifying every single transactions. In layer two, we use different tricks, it's been there's been this idea of a blockchain trilemma for a long time, that if you want to improve one of the sides of the trilemma, which is scalability, security, and decentralization, you necessarily have to make compromises in the other two. And this was true with the tools that we have before. So, like, for example, optimistic rollups, or side chains, or Plasma, they all do this. So you verify less, you introduce some trust assumptions, but those trust assumptions are kind of like not absolute. You don't really trust like one person or like one like big group of people. You trust like very big group of people with certain assumptions, like at least one of them is honest, or like some different things. But zero knowledge proofs are something very outstanding from this entire spectrum, because they allow you to actually verify all of the transactions yourself. There's zero trust assumption. You just do mathematical verification. So what we achieve with zero knowledge proofs is like actually compressing computation, if you want, in layman terms. And this is really, really exciting. So like it completely solves the validity part of the problem. You could theoretically verify, like not even theoretically, you could practically construct a system which will verify the amount of computation comparable with like all financial transactions in the world. And you can check it with your cell phone in 30 milliseconds. This is mind-blowing. But we can't do it yet for data availability. Data availability requires another breakthrough to get to this level. And if that, like once that breakthrough is achieved, at some point, I believe it will be the case, we will have an indefinitely scalable blockchain like Ethereum, where like like number of people can increase, and it doesn't lead to any sacrifices in security or throughput or decentralization. So this is why I'm extremely excited about zero knowledge proof specifically.
Thank you, Alex. Next one, Mo, would you also like to share your thought on it?
Sure. I think my previous panelists all kind of shared very many interesting things. So, I will focus on two aspects here. One is kind of briefly touch on state channel as well, because we are very interesting solution here that we kind of touch and across three of different strategy stacks, like technology stacks, including state channels, ZK rollup, and optimistic rollup. So, first on state channel from a user perspective, what state channel is really good at is high frequency and real-time user interactions. The reason for that is that there's no global state need to be stored in a shared storage. There's only local state that need to be shared between different participating users. And therefore, for state channel, it's really suitable for things like high frequency interacting games and micropayments and things like these kind of use case scenarios. And this is like what we are using state channel for exactly. Now, for optimistic rollup and ZK rollup, they're all rollup based solutions, and my previous panelists summarized it already very well. One thing to add there is from kind of a user perspective. One interesting aspect is that from optimistic rollup perspective, if there's some information that need to be passed from layer 2 to layer 1, for optimistic rollup, it's going to take a longer period of time than ZK rollup. So that is because the finality of the block on optimistic rollup is actually going to experience something called the challenge period. It's still having layer 1 level security, but because there's no kind of an instant validity proof that is provided by zero knowledge solutions, that it has to wait a certain time to actually get that. And this is like important in some use cases, and this is like also why we're all actually very interested in working with Starkware folks, on kind of introducing a new ZK rollup version to layer 2 finance, that is to address some of the interesting use cases for DeFi, where the latency from users commit to deposit funding to certain protocol to the actual execution need to be very short. And this is like where ZK rollup really shines for some of the, especially layer 2 to layer 1, transactions. But it's not to say that optimistic rollup is like lost its hope, because for state channel, it's a very good kind of application or a way to bridge liquidity between different rollups, and very importantly, from layer 2 to layer 1 directly with liquidity provider. Basically, someone need to become the liquidity provider to say, yeah, I'm willing to kind of accept your payment on layer 2, and then directly send you directly your withdraw on layer 1 while the blockchain is being finalized, as long as I can still check the entire validity of the optimistic rollup blocks. So there are various kind of trade-offs. And in our view, they are likely to be suitable for different kind of applications. For sidechain, many, I guess, most of the panelists skipped that because, arguably they're not layer 2 solutions. Layer 2 solution, in the most strict sense, is defined as a solution where the security doesn't rely eventually on a committee that is like not the layer 1 security. So every layer 2 solution's security finally draws from the layer 1 security directly, without relying on any kind of a closed party or proof of stake mechanism where the sidechain is basically. I think there is really the the best solution from kind of a user perspective. All of these solutions probably will work together in the future and create a coherent platform for users to use for different kind of use cases and applications.
Thank you, Mo. Mihaela, would you also like to share your thoughts on it?
Yeah, sure. I think previous panelists covered all these solutions pretty well. Especially Professor Sasson with this 2x2 matrix, where on one side we have validity proofs or fraud proofs, and on the other side we have these two different approaches to guaranteeing data availability. So it's either on chain or off chain. And then Mo mentioned state channels as an, I would say, different sort of animal. State channels are using kind of different primitives than all these other solutions. Mainly in a sense, I would say all these solutions that are in this 2x2 matrix can be actually considered chains in a way. So there is this unified or single chain of transactions or blocks normally. And in the case of state channels, these relationships can be bilateral and often are bilateral in a sense. So you can have in parallel multiple of these chains, multiple histories, basically between every pair of users theoretically. So I would say this is the main difference between all these, let's say, 4 solutions and state channels. And finally, the solution that was not mentioned here are sidechains. And sidechains are, many people would argue, I guess majority of people will argue that they are not layer 2 solutions. And I can generally agree, because the solution, the definition of layer 2 solutions is that it derives security ideally entirely from Ethereum or layer 1, if you want to be more general. Sidechains by design have their own validator set, thus they are not deriving security from layer 1. But again, many people would argue that sidechains are a scalability solution. So not layer 2, but they are scalability solutions. I think that there is kind of general agreement about that. And sidechains, that being said, sidechains by default or by design provide the lowest level of security out of all these solutions. And then you have, as we can see, I guess the scalability landscape of Ethereum is very rich and very exciting. And I expect also to see multiple hybrid solutions, if you will. So for example, now Celer is collaborating with Starkware, and we're seeing some sort of hybrid solution there. For example, our POS chain that we're using is some sort of, it's not a typical sidechain in the sense that it uses Ethereum for several important features, like staking, slashing, validator are kind of living. Everything is implemented on Ethereum. So that's how we kind of derive security in some sense from Ethereum. We use it also for checkpointing to achieve stronger finality, etc. So basically the point is that I think previous panelists covered it pretty well. And I guess the conclusion is that scalability landscape is very rich. And I think we'll see a lot of also innovation and new solutions moving forward.
Thank you, Mihaela. Jan, do you have more to add on this topic? Hello?
Sorry, forget to unmute myself. So yeah, I think pretty much all the points being covered pretty good. I mean, from my point of view, I think we don't really have a perfect solution to fix all like different scenarios, right? So I think like a solution like state channel is really good for handling some like a micropayment and those kind of stuff. So, but in terms of like a roll-up, you know, since all the transaction state and the execution are being pretty much handled on the side chains, and I think the optimistic roll-up is one thing I really like is they support the EVM, make it really easy for the developers to deploy their smart contract on it. And you can pretty much do whatever you can do on Ethereum on the layer 1, on the layer 2, on optimistic. And but ZK, on the other side, I mean, ZK rollup has a shorter settlement time, but some of them does not support EVM. I mean, some of them, I do know like something interesting is coming, but it's still perfect for like those high on-chain activity applications like DEX, right? Like Loopring, those guys are building on DK. So yeah, that's pretty much I go on that.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next questions. As we know that some of those layer 2 solutions already launched and some are launching soon, and we are expecting a full blowing of layer 2 solution. How this will benefit in Ethereum ecosystem as a whole, and beside of DeFi and NFT, will these other type of dApps or protocol flourish on Ethereum once those layer 2 projects successfully take off? Let's start with Jody.
Yeah, well, mainly the promise is that these, at least in the short run, these layer 2 solutions will liberate space, so liberate the capacity of Ethereum. Right now, Ethereum is full of transactions. There is the capacity is full, so the price is high. You know, it's like a lot of demand and limited offer in layer 2 transactions. So here, what we are doing is just increasing the offer, at least for specific transactions. Everything that's just transferring a token or even doing an exchange. This is like 90% of the transactions that are currently doing in Ethereum. So if all these transactions go to the layer 2 solutions, Ethereum will be much more liberated. This is in the short run. You know, in the long run, where all these EVM rollups and so on, they are very promising, and they will have like an Ethereum will have higher capacity, Ethereum higher capacity. And but this is at the end, if you want this will lower the price, or if you want, it will reach Ethereum to much more people. Right now, there is a lot of applications that just had to stop their business. They had to stop because the gas price. Many of them, and they're very interesting projects, very promising projects, and they have no space right now in Ethereum because gas costs just kill them. And this is what these layer 2 solutions will bring. I think very close on time.
Thank you, Jody. Ellie, would you also like to share your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree with Joel. Yeah, we're already starting to see it. So a lot of the stuff that is currently residing on Ethereum is, because of the severe gas restrictions, developers are really limiting the functionality of their code. And once you move to an L2, this whole thing opens up. So I'll just give 2 examples from or 3 examples from our current systems that are already running in production. So DYDX does margin trading, and they had to severely restrict the the leverage that they allowed, because the Oracle price ticks that they took were very infrequent because it costs a lot. And okay, now once they move to L2, suddenly they can have a very high rate of Oracle prices fed into the system. And this allows them much higher leveraging for their customers, and still having, being able to deal quite nicely with cases even of mass liquidation. So that's one example. They also allowed multi-collateralization across many different positions, which is again something they couldn't do on L1. Immutable X, which is another of our customers, has minted hundreds of thousands, actually millions of NFTs for fractions of a cent. Now, this is just the beginning, because once you move to L2 and all of these gas restrictions disappear, you can start writing complete new functionalities. For instance, gaming on blockchains is very limited. So you have CryptoKitties, but in terms of the logic that is played out through the engine that sits on L1 is very limited because of gas. Now, once you move to L2, you can have much more elaborate games running on, running their logic on an L2, and that's one thing that we're going to see. Similarly, with much more elaborate trading strategies, and you'll also see that the bar to trading and making payments will go down. So we'll come closer to the original vision of Satoshi. When the white paper of Bitcoin talks about micropayments as the driver. Now, no one is using Bitcoin today for micropayments. Micropayments, like fractions of a cent when you watch, let's say, you browse a page. This will become more achievable. I'm not sure if we'll get all the way there, but once you allow L2, and yeah, that's what we'll see. A lot more and a lot more computation and functionality.
Thank you, El. Alex, would you also like to share your thoughts on it?
Sure, I agree with both Jordi and Ellie on the case that we'll have a lot more activity. Like a lot of users will come back to Ethereum from other chains, or a lot of new retail users will join Ethereum for the first time, because the the transaction costs will be more affordable on layer 2. I will take a slightly more contrarian take on the question of gas costs. I think the gas will keep rising, and the L2 costs will keep rising, especially for rollups. So like what I believe will happen with rollups is they will actually increase the gas pressure, because there is such a thing as induced demand. And once the activity becomes a lot more affordable, we have more people and even more trading, even more activity per person going on the chain, and it will just drive up the prices crazily. So roll-ups for the full security guarantees of Ethereum with more or less like strong claims on it, they give you roughly 100 boost of scalability. So the fees will be roughly 100th of what they are at, on L1. And I believe we will very quickly be back to the situation where the costs on L2 are resembling the current costs on L1. So then there will be space again for solutions like Validium or side chains. On the payment channels are their own dimension entirely. Like, and payment channels are like the class of their own. I'm talking about like generic smart contract programmability. So I think it will be very interesting to see how the hybrid solutions work. The class of solution is called Volution, for example, where you have the same system embraces accounts of ZK rollup type and of Validium type or ZK Porter type if you add like additional cryptoeconomic security to them. And the interest of those systems is that they do not break composability. You can still interoperate between these two types of accounts. So we're very excited about ZK Sync 2.0 bringing ZK Porter to Ethereum because of this. But yeah, right now the L2s already give a huge relief. For example, 99% of all transactions for the last Gitcoin grant round were done on ZK Sync. Because it would just not be possible for people to donate as much and to have as many donations as with Layer 2.
Thank you, Alex. Mo, what's your opinions about this?
Yeah, I think just to add on onto the previous panelist, I think also kind of a contrarian point here is that it seems that everyone is kind of expecting during the summer a bunch of Layer 2 solutions going to go online and going to launch, and suddenly there will be much more different kind of applications and all that stuff that just shows up on these Layer 2. As kind of a Layer 2 researcher and also kind of in this space, I would like the community to actually set the expectation a little bit, more aligned with the reality. I would say where we are in terms of the entire Layer 2 movement and progress is, just quoting from a famous guy here, we're probably just at the end of the beginning, and not even at the beginning of the end yet. So, we're at the point there we have figured out how to do Layer 2, and we have done most of the groundwork and fundamental work. But there are actually a lot of ecosystem and the surrounding supporting ecosystem need to happen before the full-blown services can actually live on this. There can be gateway services who are the block producers, who are the watchtowers. How does centralized exchange interact with all these Layer 2? So all these questions need to be solved before they start to become kind of a standalone ecosystem that have the applications be able to kind of live on them very freely. And then on top of that, once we open up this capacity, there is a process of innovation that has to happen, and that's going to be a process. Just to kind of drawing some analogy in the technology development, right? So like the 4G was introduced, the 4G in mobile phone and cellular phone introduced around 2012, and the TikTok didn't happen 3 years after that. So like there will be some time where people figure out, okay, this additional capacity, what can we do about this? Can we build a more a decentralized exchange with a better trade-off curve on capital efficiency, impermanent loss, and slippage than all the existing AMM design because of this lower cost? And can we build some games, as Ali pointed out, that is just not possible on Layer 1? So these kind of demands and discovery and innovation discovery will take some time. So it's not likely going to be this summer we just suddenly see tons of different applications that just pop up. And it will still take some time, but I think we're very close to the beginning of the end.
Thank you, Molt. And Michaela, what's your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, sure, thanks. Basically, as previous panelists said, and to answer to answer your question, the introduction of these layer 2 systems or scalability solutions will hopefully start this explosion of usage. And right now, what we're seeing with this congested layer 1 is that both developers and end users are kind of suffering at the moment. So with scalability solutions, for example, with our POS chain that is seeing great level of adoption, we are seeing that firsthand. For example, applications like Aave, it is a premium DeFi app that is deployed recently on our chain, has seen great level of usage, and there is this long tail of users that are completely priced out from using layer 1 at the moment. So it becomes in some way, people like to call it a whale game. So it's like a playground for big players. It's kind of becoming the antithesis of what was the original promise of Ethereum. The Ethereum is envisioned as an opened financial system for everyone, kind of. And this, what we have right now, is definitely not it. So we definitely need these scalability solutions to kind of fulfill that original promise of Ethereum. And generally, I'm now to Alex and Mo's points. Long term, I'm extremely bullish on Ethereum and these scalability solutions, like extremely. But as Mo said, it is very important, I think, to set the expectations realistic. So the community tends to be very excited about specific solutions at specific points. So we saw that also firsthand with Plasma in the previous years, and right now with rollups. So don't get me wrong, I'm again big fan of rollups, big fan of all scalability efforts. But rollups, as Alex said, have kind of serious limitations in terms of throughput primarily. And we that 100 DEX improvement in scalability, and that 100 is assuming we have basically one rollup. But if you have tens, the scalability goes down for each one of them. So, and we generally want to onboard millions of, ideally billions of people one day to Ethereum, and this throughput is, of course, far from enough to actually achieve that. So we really have to be realistic about the fact that we are really, as Mo nicely said, at the end of the beginning. I would say even in the best case, like we have a lot of knowledge now, we have a lot of these primitives that are really good, but I guess we have to remember that we're trying to build, repeat again, alternative financial system for billions of people, and infrastructure for something like that cannot be built in 3 years, basically. I guess that's how long, maybe 3 or 4 years, that's how long Ethereum scalability solutions are a thing. So definitely we still need a lot of time, I would say, to for this infrastructure to mature. But again, I'm as bullish as possible in the long term.
Thank you, Michaela. Jan, do you have more to add on this topic?
Again, geez. Anyway, so yeah, I want to take it from a different angle. Like we already have internet for a few decades, but I would see the booming stage of the internet really begins about like 10 years ago, once we have the mobile phone, right? The mobile internet. It makes me feel like we have the blockchain for a while, and once we get all the layer 2 the scalability solutions, you know, it's just remove the limit, a lot of the limits of people using blockchains. So we don't need to think about I mean, till then, once we don't need to think about the gas fee, the cost, everything, and people are more friendly to just bring more use case, more adoption, and who knows what all the great developers gonna make. And I think it's just you know, another beginning of a beginning. So yeah.
Thank you, Jan. So the next questions, we've seen that some of protocol application on Ethereum has moved to other public chain with lower costs and higher TPS. Some of those public chain are backed by the leading crypto exchange with huge advantage on the retail side, including BSC and Heckle, and also other Ethereum virtual machine compatible public chains such as Avalanche, Near, Solana. What do you think about it? And with the rising of those public chain, weaken the power or value of Ethereum and its layer 2 projects? Let's start with Jody. Jody, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, is running a public blockchain, a real decentralized blockchain, is hard and takes its time. I want to remember that Ethereum has suffered, for example, a lot of attacks, and they survived to those attacks, same that Bitcoin. And this is what makes Ethereum reliable, secure, universal, decentralized. Building a new chain, of course, it's possible. It was already built, these chains, but it takes its time and it takes its reliability. So copying Ethereum, just being okay. Let's see what's behind Ethereum. What's the next one? Okay, you can start building a new one, but it takes time. It takes effort. You have to build also the community on top of that. It's like a huge effort. So yeah, it's definitively possible, but it's hard. Well, sidechains. In the other side, I think these sidechains are very. So these new projects, they spur Ethereum also continue going on and to the Ethereum community, because it's like a kind of competing. It's like they see that there is other chains that are doing things interesting. So in some way, this kind of competition is good on itself, but it's hard. Now, maybe you can do some central party with maybe some exchange with a lot of power. They can create their own chain, but it's going to be okay. Just, well, you call it chain, but maybe it's just a centralized server, or it's something that's close to. Is it that what we want? Well, maybe it's useful. Maybe it's useful. Right now we have banks, and banks, they have also their own centralized servers, and people is using. Maybe it's useful, but it's not really what we're building here. We're building networks that are not controlled by a single person or even a set of persons. And yeah, that's why it's important that we keep when we're building these layer 2 solutions, we keep the principles of the layer 1 networks. This censorship resistant, this decentralization, this opt-in, opt-out, these main values that makes this space great. And this is important. We have to take in account when we're building these systems.
Thank you, Jody. And Elle, what do you think about this?
Yeah, yeah, I tend to agree with Jody. So relying on a centralized party is a solution that human society have been using for millennia. That's the traditional system. It works. It has its pros and cons, right? It works very, very well, because if everyone trusts one single source of authority, then things can become much more efficient. Blockchains are work differently, and they say that the trust is or the security and safety are built on actually distributing the trust and not putting it in any one basket. So, but then again, I can see that customers may be sufficiently happy with entrusting their funds and keys and everything with a centralized party, and that's going to be very efficient. I hope that there is enough interest and appreciation for the benefits of decentralization that won't make the whole space, devolve into something decentralized. because I mean, if you go and move to one of these side chains, you have to ask yourself, like, okay, now everything is works very well, but what if, right? What if some central government comes and confiscates things or shuts it down, or there's an insider hacking the system, and yeah, but so I definitely, you can see that there's a lot of traction on these centralized systems. Then again, there's a lot more traction on other centralized systems, like standard conventional stock exchanges and the banking system. And I think these chains are far closer to the standard conventional banking world than they are to the blockchains. And the banking world, yes, it has its benefits. I think I view our technology as sitting in a different space and position, and we're I think our technology will disrupt things like conventional banking and things like that, and move to decentralization. And but the fact is that currently centralized solutions, both that have some interface to blockchains and those who don't have, definitely are very profitable, and that's fine. But I'm passionate about something else.
Thank you, Eli. Alex, would you like to share your thoughts on this topic as well?
Yep, I think the high usage of those systems actually shows that there is a very high demand for permissionlessness in the first place, which classical institutions such as banks have lost. It's extremely difficult to open a bank account. It's even more difficult to open a bank account in some trusted jurisdiction like the US or Switzerland or European Union or Singapore. Like, you have to be a resident there, you have to be do some insane things, bring a ton of paperwork, and you don't have to do it with those exchanges, with those centralized, more centralized chains, but they bear the same risks. So like the reason it happened to the banking system is going to be the same reason why it will eventually, one way or another, happen to those exchanges and happen to those centralized solutions. And it will happen sooner than we hope. I think it's going to be a very fast process. So we need to be faster, and we really need to bring the self-sovereign, non-custodial solutions to everyone in the world. And I'm very confident we can do this. The technology is there, so we need one like kind of a breakthrough with data availability, but I think we'll get there. It's kind of in the side. It's like more or less vaguely visible already what we can do, and it's just engineering and business effort, and it will be done. Like within a few years, like 5-10 years from now, we will have systems that give everyone access to crypto in a fully self-sovereign way. I'm very excited about that.
Thank you, Alex, and very nice drawing behind you, Eli. Next, Mo, do you have? Would you like to share your thoughts on this topic as well?
Sure. I'm actually holding a somewhat contrarian thought on this as well. Like, I'm actually super excited about the Binance chain and the Hako and all these centralized chains. 3 reasons really. The first reason is that it is telling us there is a huge demand for DeFi, for blockchain applications, for open finance, and they're showing us what layer 2s will have. Once some of the layer 2 start to launch. So it is pointing us to the future. Like, I don't really care like whether they're centralized right now or not. I'm excited because they're saying, hey, there are a huge amount of demand that is long tail, and they're just waiting for us to grab, which is awesome. And the second is that they're doing education. A lot of the community they are touching are not very, let's say, DeFi savvy, because they couldn't. How could they be understanding, all these DeFi protocols on Ethereum if they hadn't even had the chance to actually use it? Because every time they touch any Ethereum DeFi protocol today, it's $300 to do a round trip. So these platforms, they actually providing a very, very good education platform for new users to enter the space and learn about DeFi, learn about the important concept of what is the LP tokens and all these stuff. And we're seeing these firsthand from many of the users, like actually using these chains. And then they start to look at, okay, what is Ethereum doing and stuff like that. And so the third point here is that very interestingly, I'm very excited to see all these more centralized chains are choosing the stack of Ethereum stack, which means that there is a developer consensus start to emerge like in this space, especially for these even for these kind of exchange-backed chains, they're also choosing this particular direction to go in terms of the technical stack. So overall, I'm actually pretty excited about this because, this points us to the future. One interesting thing, however, is that these chains provide a higher capacity, but what we haven't seen is true innovation on top of that. Like we see a lot of different migrations of protocols. We see a different folks and the small tweaks, but we're just wondering like where the true innovations will be. Like I'm actually really would really look forward to some of the true innovations that leverage that high capacity, which also means that they can seamlessly transfer back into the layer 2 solution when some of the layer 2 solutions launches. So yeah.
Thank you, Mo. Mihaela, what's your thoughts on this topic?
So basically, these alternative layer 1s are essentially trying to capitalize on the fact that Ethereum layer 1 is congested and that Ethereum scalability solutions are not really or fully mature yet, and they are offering themselves as an alternative, and they are able to offer certain levels of capacity, primarily because of two things. One thing is that these chains are relatively empty, if you will, when they start the operation. Ethereum was also very cheap to use, and there was available capacity in the beginning. And the second thing is that they normally introduce certain level of centralization, sometimes even pretty high level of centralization, that allows to design a chain that has higher throughput, basically. And as previous panelists said, these are serious trade-offs, and you can one can question is if these chains are actually loyal to this ethos of openness, permissionlessness that we are passionately pursuing. So I guess that's my take on that. But that being said, I would also say that they are a net positive probably for the ecosystem, because they're again showing us that there is definitely demand, and they can be maybe considered as some sort of playground, maybe even for novice users to easier try out some of these core blockchain and crypto concepts, and then maybe gradually educate themselves, realize the trade-offs of those chains that they're using, and hopefully onboard at some later point to more trustless solutions, like some of the solutions that are presenting here today are.
Thank you, Mihaela. Jan, do you have more to add on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I don't think the growth of other chains will thinning the value of the Ethereum. I mean, even in the future, because I see most of people attract to those chains right now are mainly because of the low transaction fee and better performance. But for Ethereum, I mean, once we get the Ethereum 2.0 sharding, POS, and also all the layer 2 solution on top of those, both of the transaction fee and the performance is not a problem at all. And after that, people should start thinking about some more interesting stuff like the security and decentralization, those type of thing. And I also think the majority, I mean, one of the biggest value of a blockchain ecosystem is really all the developer and the ecosystem itself. I still think Ethereum is still the leader in that space. So yeah.
Thank you. So the last questions of this panel, there's some voice in the community saying that because the layer 2 solution are not really interruptible, and DeFi protocol need to choose which we need to choosing between those layer 2 scaling solution. So there's some worry about by doing that, it might split the Ethereum system, Ethereum as a whole. What do you think about it and how this problem can be avoided? Just little heads up, we are running out of the time, so would it be great if you can keep the answer a little bit more brief. Let's start with Jody.
Yeah, well, maybe probably this is an interesting debate, but right now we are starting like layer 2 solutions. We are proving that these layer 2 solutions work, and just 1 year ago or 1.5 years ago, there were no layer 2 solutions running anywhere. So we are very early stage here. I think in this early stage, it's important to have as many layer 2 solutions as possible, because all of them, they add some kind of value. We can learn from each other, and at this stage, I would say that as many layer 2 solutions are in the space, the better for the ecosystem itself. You are right that at some point this may happen, that the value is split in different layer 2 solutions. But right now there are solutions to interact with these layer 2 solutions that are in the research phase, and well, we have already from Hermez, we have some initial way, for example, for we call it massive migrations, from moving from one rollup to another rollup in a massive way. And there are different techniques, and this is a field of research that when many layer 2 solutions start being there, it's going to be a hot topic at some point. And the debate, for me, the debate of the just one single chain or many chains. Well, for me, it's maybe at some point there is maybe just one chain, but we are far from there. And just check the blockchains. Right? Blockchains looks like there is people that says that only Bitcoin should be the only chain in there. There is people that think that way, and they have the reasons to do that. But Ethereum would not exist, or any other Zcash would not exist if we think in a single chain. This will limit very much the evolution of the space, and this will limit very much the research, and so that's why I think that's important. That it's important to have many blockchains, many layer 2 solutions in this case.
Thank you, Jody. Ellie, what do you think about this? What's your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, I think we're too early to see how the various L2s will interact. The obvious answer is that you can always move back to L1 and then go from one L2 to the other. I think it would be really interesting to hear Mo from Celer opine on this, because they have actually, deployed an optimistic rollup, and now they're going to also have a Zk rollup with us. So it would be interesting to hear. So I'm saying it's too early. You can always go through L1, but you can also do all kinds of cross L2 reconciliations later down the line. So I'm not too worried. Like if there's going to be real demand on multiple L2s for interconnectivity, just like you have bridges between different L1s that operate pretty nicely, it's going to be even more easy because they're all sort of parts of the same L1 system. So I'm not too worried. I think you'll see convergence and interoperability between them.
Okay, thanks for share that, Ellie. Mo, would you like to share your thoughts on it?
Yeah, sure. Just really quickly, I think Ali mentioned this. We actually have a solution called C-Bridge that can pretty seamlessly bridge different kind of layer 2s by liquidity providers providing liquidity on both of these chains, or even multiple chains using state channel. So one way to think about this is that computer science design is always about trade-off, right? So we are selling out some kind of interoperability to scalability by really building rollup, then we can kind of buy that back by using some more liquidity to lock up on the liquidity for different chains and providing bridging services on top of them in a trust-free way, and that can make it very easy to interoperate. So as you know, I'm with Addy here. I'm actually not that worried about the interoperability of the layer 2 future.
Thank you, Mo. Alex, Alex, what's your thought on it?
So I'm going to comment last on the question of interoperability. I agree with Eddie that you can do it through L1, and everyone will have some standardized interface of some message passing, and there will be this asynchronous communication through payment channels. I think that people expect, like when we speak about interoperability, people usually mean composability, so that you can interact from one contract to another. And usually they also imply that there is some type of atomicity, like you can take your stake in one DeFi protocol and move it to the other and do some flash loans, and this all works like within a single transaction, which will not work between different layer 2s. So we will lose this kind of functionality, and this might lead to a situation that people tend towards some of the layer 2 solutions more than the others. And my prediction would be that we will have, like, initially there is going to be Cambrian explosion in these protocols, and many of them will compete and crystallize which are better. But eventually we will have only a few big ones, and the big ones which will remain will have some distinctions. Like they must have something unique. If all of the solutions offer the same thing with the same set of functionality, same proper, like not same properties, like you know, same functionality, same product essentially, then some of them will be better and some of them will have more network effects and they will remain. But if you have different products for different classes of solutions, for different niches, then I think they have room to coexist on layer 1 and cater to those different groups.
Thank you, Alex. Mihala, what's your opinions about this topic?
Yes, when it comes to interoperability or passing messages between different scalability solutions, there are many interesting challenges there. And I mean, the whole landscape is full of challenges. But basically, as Alex said, when we speak about composability, in Ethereum, we normally think about synchrony and atomicity. And that is something that you're probably going to lose. There are some approaches like yanking and then some other things that kind of experiment with providing this way of communication, even in this multi-chain setup. Because I mean, all these scalability solutions, apart from state channels, are effectively chains on their own, as I mentioned previously. So yes, and as Jordi said, I think at this point it is very important to encourage innovation. And there is this famous quote that I often think about when I think about Polygon, for example. It says, "Let 1,000 flowers bloom." So I think at this point, we really need to encourage this innovation. And that's what we're trying to do at Polygon. We would like to become kind of a hub for Ethereum's scaling and infrastructure development. And we will, the infrastructure, including interoperability protocols and models, will inevitably mature with time. So I guess we just need to let the innovation happen, and I'm pretty optimistic as other panelists that interoperability between these solutions will be solved.
Thank you, Mihala. Jan, do you have more to add on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, like what we talked before, I think like a different type of scenario or application probably more suitable for different solutions. And I think it's still a little bit too early to talk about this, since we, I think we probably want to have like a few layer 2 solution like well developed out there, and then we might come up with some like more interesting hybrid solutions. So to easily connect everything together. Yep.
Thank you, Alex. All right, that's the end of our panel, and thanks for everyone to share those amazing thoughts with us, and thanks for everyone for watching. 结束。
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure.